think we'll get started. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to join us for this webinar, hybrid event on grassroots feminist organizing in times of crisis. I know the Commission on the Status of Women is a very busy week, so I really appreciate you taking time to join us. So my name is Mayuri Anipindi, and I'm the Global Advocacy Strategist at UUSC, which is an international human rights organization based in Boston that has been operating for 85 years. It was founded in May 1940. And we work on a variety of issues around the world, including climate forced displacement, migrant justice, and justice and accountability. And what we provide are grants, advocacy support, research and communication support. And our ethos is really to center directly impacted communities and the leadership of directly impacted communities. So I'm delighted today. I'm delighted today to have such a superstar panel with us. First, we have Lway, who is from the Women's League of Burma. She joined the Tang Women's Organization when she was only 16 and has served as the General Secretary of Women's League of Burma and is currently their US-based representative. We have Alicia Wallace, who is a queer feminist and the director of Equality Bahamas, an LGBTQ+ and feminist organization. And we are hosted by Janay Cauthen, who is the executive director and chair of the board of Families for Freedom, which is the office that we're in today. So really grateful to her generosity in hosting us today. And online we have Blanca Miculax, who is the head of the women's program of Associácion, which is an organization that works with Mayan women and girls in Guatemala and has been a long-standing partner of UUSC. So I'm going to, just to open the panel, just allow them to introduce themselves and how they came to this work a little bit more fully.
Buenos días a todos y a todas las que nos acompañan el día de hoy. Me siento muy satisfecha, ¿verdad?, por compartir con ustedes el día de hoy. Mi nombre es Blanca Miculax, Maya Cachiquiel, originaria de Patsunchimaltenango, Guatemala, y pues formo parte del equipo de Asociación POPNOG, y pues qué gusto me da poder compartir nuestro trabajo.
Blanca, if perhaps we could start with you for the first question, which is, could you tell us a little bit about how you came to this work and the work that your organization does?
Con mucho gusto. Bueno, Asociación POPNOG está en el idioma maya quiché, que significa tejiendo ideas, conocimientos y sabiduría. Es una organización guatemalteca que trabaja en la promoción y la defensa de los derechos de los pueblos indígenas y particularmente de mujeres, juventudes, la niñez y personas en movilidad humana con un enfoque de género e interculturalidad. Y nuestra labor tiene como base filosófica la cosmovisión maya que busca el buen vivir para todas y todos, reconociendo también y promoviendo la identidad cultural y la recuperación de la historia, de los saberes, de las prácticas ancestrales como una fuerza para construir vida, ¿verdad? Y pues como pueblos sabemos que históricamente tiene una gran riqueza histórica, ¿verdad? Valga la redundancia, nuestra cultura, nuestros saberes, nuestras prácticas que promueven una vida sostenible entre seres humanos. Y no solo eso, sino también una vida sostenible entre la madre naturaleza, las energías del cosmos, en equilibrio y en armonía. Sin embargo, han sido pues sometidos, despojados, discriminados, oprimidos y explotados, ¿verdad? Dando un resultado de empobrecimiento y marginación que, que pues es una situación muy compleja para los pueblos. En este caso, particularmente las mujeres, pese a ser guardianas de nuestra cultura, de la madre tierra, son quienes llevan la peor carga debido a este sistema patriarcal que atraviesan todas las formas de dominación en su vida. Entonces, a raíz de todo eso, Popnog nace como una respuesta a los desafíos que enfrentan los pueblos indígenas y especialmente las mujeres, y que también buscamos generar cambios que beneficien a las comunidades y personas que históricamente han sido excluidas. Y desde nuestros inicios hemos contado con un programa de mujeres a la que yo pertenezco y que buscamos contribuir a su empoderamiento y participación plena en todos los campos de la vida, desde lo individual, lo familiar, lo comunitario y pues en todos los niveles, ¿verdad? En la vida de las mujeres. Entonces, definimos nuestro rol como PopNo, ser un acompañante de procesos, entendiendo que el protagonismo principal pues es de las propias mujeres y sus organizaciones de base. En esta función de acompañamiento desde la fundación de POMNO, pues ha implementado como estrategias claves la formación, la capacitación, el fortalecimiento de las organizaciones y el trabajo en red, así también la incidencia política, la comunicación social, la investigación y el desarrollo de iniciativas productivas y económicas que les permite a las mujeres pues generar ingresos, ser tomadoras de sus propias decisiones, pues, ¿por qué no decir? Tener una vida digna, que es lo que anhelamos, y pues que tengan esa oportunidad de realizarse, ¿verdad? De realizar su vida, sus metas y lo que ellas pues anhelan en su vida. Entonces, en resumen, esto les puedo contar de POMNOG y pues es una labor bastante grande, pero que nos sentimos satisfechas y satisfechos de lo que aportamos a nuestros pueblos. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much, Blanca, and we're so grateful that you're able to join us. So next, if we could ask Janay to tell us a little bit about what brought you to this work and about your organization that's kindly hosting us.
Okay, so what brought me to this work? Back in 2002, I fell in love with a Black man that happens to be an immigrant. And you know, you go on your first date, he left a couple of things out of his resume. He didn't tell me that he had a final order deportation. Unfortunately, when he was a teenager, he got arrested for a drug offense in the state of Virginia. He was 19 years old. His name is Gene Montreville. He's also the father of my children. He said, I made a mistake. You know, my mom died when I was very young. I said, okay, as long as you're not a serial killer, we can make this work. So he received a letter from his parole office stating that they was gonna release him from parole early, only for me to get a phone call to tell me to pick up my children from daycare that they're gonna deport him. I'm like, deport him? The law didn't take in effect until he got convicted in '89. When they changed the laws in 1996, it made it retroactive for all immigrants. I was unaware of that. When that happened, I went full-fledged. Back in the day, we didn't have this high-speed internet. I remember going to the discount store, buying like 100-foot telephone cord to set up my gateway computer, because that was the first computer I had back then. And I started emailing a lot of different organizations saying, please help me keep my family together. Families of Freedom is one of the first organizations that reached out to my family and showed me how to turn my pain into power. I've been a member of this organization since 2005, because that's when he was initially detained by ICE. We fought and we fought and we fought and we fought. Unfortunately, he was deported in 2018 under Trump's administration. But 8 years prior, I had filed for a pardon in the state of Virginia. Ralph Northam at the time was the governor. Thank God they allowed the pardon to stay dormant. So when he was deported, I reached out to Alana Dodds, who was his attorney. She's a professor at NYU. Amazing. So she reached out, she said, you know what? We're going to put pressure on Governor Northam. He's a Democrat. So our son, Josiah Montreville, he was a freshman in Brooklyn Tech High School at the time. He created a GoFundMe page. He raised about 40 grand in 72 hours because he shared his story. When that happened, I said, you know, I can't give up. My children are looking at me. I have to teach them that in life, you're going to hit bumps, but you have to continue to fight. In 2021, he was granted that pardon, and he was able to be reunited with our family. He has his green card back, and he's on the pathway to citizenship. I stayed an active member because when I was going through that whole situation, I was a shy person, just went to work and came home. But when you're dealing with immigration, you have to go public. So now your coworkers are going to see you. So I said, oh, well, everyone has secrets. My secret is going to be exposed. And once I started getting the news and the media and stuff involved, I was so surprised by how many people were affected by these same issues, but they didn't know how to activate it. As a board member of Families for Freedom back in 2021, the former ED, he decided to resign while we were on a Zoom call. And I was on a medical, I was on a medical leave from the city of New York because I work in New York City Department of Homeless Services rather. So when he said he was quitting, everyone was like, oh. So I said, I'm not gonna let this I said, you know what, I'll step up as the acting ED until we find a replacement. For me going to the acting ED, I realized this is where my heart is, and I just became the ED. And to be able to share my story with other families that's faced with these same, you know, struggles is a blessing to me. And I realized that so many people go through struggles, but they don't have no place to turn. They have trust issues. This new administration that's anti-everyone. He's not just going after immigrants, he's going after everyone. So we just have to stick together and learn to turn our pain into power. So that's how I got into this work, from being someone that needed help, now I'm someone that provides the help.
After that, wow, brutal. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alicia Wallace. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Director of Equality Bahamas, which was founded in 2014. It's it's a whole story as to how it was founded, but the crux of it is it started with rage. That's really the foundation of it. So much violence against women, against girls, and with impunity. And seeing the complicity, and in some cases, the direct acts of violence by people in positions of power, by parliamentarians, by senators, by ministers. A group of us decided that we couldn't keep waiting for someone else to do it. We spent so much time waiting for someone instead of being someone or some people, and we decided to just step up to the plate and get that started. So we started really focused on domestic violence, and within about 3 or 4 months, it became domestic violence and discrimination. And then a few months later, it became domestic violence, discrimination, marital rape specifically. Then it was nationality rights, because Bahamian women don't pass on citizenship in the same way as Bahamian men. And it just kept expanding, because there was no one else who was working from a feminist lens. There was no one else who was focused on women's rights. There was no one else focused on human rights, really. And to this day, the thematic areas that we work on and the ways that we work keep growing and keep getting deeper and deeper. And we still have to keep tapping back into that rage, the thing that nobody really wants to talk about. We find it really important. So much so that during the Global 16 Days campaign in 2024, we had the theme of rage and anti-resilience, and really pushing back against this idea that women, Black women in particular, are supposed to be strong and we're supposed to be able to just take anything and just bounce back and figure things out for ourselves. And really thinking about the concepts that Soraya Chemaly put forward in her book, Resilience is a Myth, that resilience isn't a character strength. It isn't something that we're supposed to develop for ourselves. It really comes from being in community and connecting with one another. And we can hear from Janay's story that a lot of what happened for her and being able to move forward was her son starting this GoFundMe, having mutual aid, and really being able to depend on each other, to call on each other, and not being afraid to say, I need help. I can't do this alone. I won't do this alone. I shouldn't have to do this alone. This has to be a community effort.
I'll keep going. Lway, Ngeal, would you like to go next about how you came to this work in your organization?
Thank you, everybody who have been joining with us. And last night also we have met at the party, and I'm very great to be here, and very appreciate that who have been supporting us for the restoring democracy and toward the federalism in our country, and the feminist movement in Burma, Myanmar. So Women League of Burma is an umbrella organization, like I showed last night, which found in 1999. And then we have been struggling to promote the women leadership in our country, and we have been promoting the women living standards in our country too. However, because of the military regime, so the discriminations has been rooted every level of, even in the family. So if you are a woman, you are a second citizenship, and you are just the woman is only the depending status in your family. So you have to rely on your husband or father or brother or something like that. So that is the discriminations by the religious, by the community, by the system, by the governments, everywhere. Is this discriminate to the woman? That's why Women League of Burma has been raised like the woman leadership is very important. So we call our slogan that no woman, no peace. So this kind of the slogan. So we organize is every year on the Peace Day, September 2021. So that is also, and on the International Women's Day, the patriarchy system is very rooted and deeply in our country. So every woman were discriminated, even in their family too. So that's why we need to, in order to reach out for the women leadership, we need to have our own right. The women are also human beings. So that's why I bring here the sarong. So we after the coup, so you will see that is very popular and successful after 2021. We have organized on the International Women's Day that calling that our sarong, our flag, our victory. So, and then we publish this kind of chat too, that is in Burmese, so is right about that too. So it is the campaign, we have been organizing campaigning about the equality for all, equality for human being, equality for, we call that gender equality, including LGBT and others too. So we have been doing the campaigns under our activity. However, after the coup, we have to, because of the many crises, so we have to change our program immediately. That is called, I would like to highlight here, that is called that emergency response program. So because there are many human rights defenders facing dangerous and in the challenge and crisis in our country, because the military junta arrested the women and arrested the LGBT and rape them. And after they rape, it does not rape, they murder and kill the women. So in our country, our after the coup, over 5,000 of human rights defender, they were killed. Among of them, over 1,000 women were killed without any reasons. And then in over 27,000 human rights defenders were arrested and detained till today. And among of that, over 5,000 of women are human rights defenders who are detained till today. They were not released yet. So you will see that how suffering that the women have been suffering because of the military regime. And currently, after the military coup 2021, after 2021, so 65% of women are leading the revolutionary. So I would not talk a lot, but as a Women League Obama, because of your supporters, so we can support over 5,000 human rights defenders. So
in response to the next question, because I wanted to explore a little bit about, the theme of this panel, which is grassroots feminist organizing in times of crisis. How do we pursue a proactive feminist agenda when also reacting to urgent circumstances? So maybe we can start with Alicia, if you wanted to talk a little bit about your work during Hurricane Dorian and what a feminist response to the climate crisis looks like to you.
Yeah, Hurricane Dorian was a Category 5 storm that devastated two of the most northern islands in the Bahamas, Grand Bahama and Abaco. And that was September 2019. And before that point, Equality Bahamas had stayed away from anything climate or environment related because science is scary. It's very intentional. So when there were storms, we would normally have a donation center. We would call on people to bring in baby items as well as menstrual hygiene products, because these are the things that are forgotten. People always donate food and clothing and things like that, but they forget that people menstruate. They forget that people have babies that need formula and diapers and wipes and all of these things. But 2019 was different, and we realized that we needed to do more. We really needed to scale up because the storms are scaling up. So we partnered with the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas, which was incredible, and let us be in the gallery with bins and boxes full of supplies to collect that we were going to pass on to larger organizations that were more prepared to distribute. What we didn't know was that people would realize that we were collecting items and then just start showing up for help. And we were not prepared to turn people away, so it quickly became a donation and distribution center. Providing assistance to people who were displaced to New Providence, a very strange place to people who are from what we call the family islands, where life is much more quiet, communities are more tightly knit, there's a lot less crime. So it's a culture shock, even in the same country, to be put in the capital. And we realized that it was really all women who were coming in for assistance. And women came in knowing, the clothing sizes for everyone, everyone's dietary needs, favorite foods, all of these things. And the few times that men came in, they just really didn't know. It was like, I don't know, we just need food. Yes, we need clothing. Okay, great. Are people menstruating in your household? Yes. Do they use pads or tampons? I don't know. So, we provide both and make sure nothing goes in the trash. If you don't need it, you bring it back or give it to somebody else. And within a couple of weeks, we realized that we started getting more and more Haitian people of Haitian descent coming into the distribution center. And we thought it was interesting, but soon learned that they were being turned away from other locations because they couldn't produce ID. So everywhere else that was providing assistance, government and otherwise, were demanding to see identification. And even for citizens, even for legal residents, this is difficult when water in your house was up to your second floor and you had to stand on your roof and wait for someone to rescue you. It was just an absurd request of people. And we actually had the experience of people coming and threatening us and saying if we don't start requiring ID, that they would shut us down. And again, a great moment to tap into rage and just sort of puff up our chests and say, I dare you. I dare you to come back and shut this down. We'll call the press. We'll make this an international incident. So we weren't shut down. We continued to provide assistance. And, it's really easy to feel good about yourself when you're meeting people's needs and you're giving food packages and all these things every day. And a few months in, we said, you know what, we need to check in with people and find out what's going on, how our needs changing. And for a lot of people, they were saying, you know, we're staying with family members or with friends, but it's been like 2 or 3 months now, and we can feel that they're tired of us being in their home, living in their living room. We need to be able to contribute more to the household. So not just food, we want to be able to bring cleaning supplies back to our hosts. And from the Haitian folks, we were hearing, you know, people have been providing food, breakfast every morning to the shelter at the Haitian church. And it's a lot of great Bahamian breakfast, but it would be really nice to have a Haitian breakfast. You know, we just thought, how is nobody thinking about this, about what people really want? It's not just about meeting needs, but it's about seeing the humanity of people and understanding their cultures and making them feel like they are real people as individuals and not just a group of people who are just in need and just need to accept our handouts. So these are just some of the things that we had to think about and that we use to shift the way that we do crisis response, not just in the case of Hurricane Dorian, but use these same ideas the next year when the COVID-19 pandemic you know, struck the world and really affected us because we were still not really bouncing back from Hurricane Dorian at that time. So these lessons are really important, remembering that, you know, we're not heroes, we're here to serve. And if we really want to serve people, we have to start with them and recognize them as experts in their own experiences and follow the lead from these people.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And so it's like a really inclusive approach that's attentive to people's differences. I love that. Janay, I wonder if any of that resonates with you with like the Trump administration's vicious attacks on migrants and the crisis of deportations that's happening right now.
Okay, I wrote down a few things to mention about Trump. I try not to keep all the ignorance that he's wanting to implement in my brain. So, because it's just not, it's not good for my mental health. For one, reproductive rights. Trump's administration overturned Roe versus Wade. So we have people in red states such as Texas that can't even get an abortion. That's sad. A lot of women have lost their life because for some reason the pregnancy wasn't going out okay. And they live in a state where they can't get an abortion, so they died. He also wants to overturn where your insurance covers contraceptive. So now you want to control whether or not we can get an abortion. And then our insurance could say, hey, if you want to do the right thing and get on birth control, we can choose whether or not we're going to pay for it. That's a serious form of ignorance. I just was hearing on a TikTok I was watching where a mother who was taking her daughter that had cancer to get treatment, and she was picked up at a checkpoint and deported back to Mexico after she pleaded with these agents, showed the medical documentation that my daughter has to get these treatments monthly. Now she's in Mexico. Mexico is a third world country. They don't have the medical supplies and doctors and things like the US. So this child may die because of hatred. That makes absolutely no sense to me. We have mothers that come in here constantly, they're victims of domestic violence, but they're undocumented and they're married to US citizens. And they told me, well, if I call the police on my husband, he said he's gonna get me deported. I can only imagine how that feels as a woman under Trump's administration. New York City was once a sanctuary city. Eric Adams, who was our mayor, he got himself into some trouble. So now in exchange for his freedom, he's trying to turn against migrants. He's closing down a migrant shelter that's not too far from here. I believe it's called the Roosevelt Hotel, where it has a lot of families in that shelter. A lot of women going to be displaced with their children because of them trying to take away sanctuary. A friend of mine, she's a teacher and she's from DR. She had to stop ICE from coming into our elementary school. And ICE should never even be allowed to go into a school. The other day I was coming to work, I see a man on like a Uber Eats, one of those little mopeds, and he had a kid with him. And it was during school hours, and he appeared to be a migrant, but I said he's probably scared to send his son to school because ICE can snatch his kid away. It's very sad. And then we fought so hard to get laws overturned where ICE is not allowed to correspond with NYPD or DOC. But Eric Adams want that law thrown out. And people who was arrested for petty crimes are going to be at risk of being deported because they're going to be allowed in DOC. Ever since Trump been elected, I've been working 7 days a week. The phone calls I'm getting is overwhelming, but the most I can do is just give people advice. At Families for Freedom, we created a safe sheet. A safe sheet is basically a contingency plan if you're picked up. So on this sheet, and I can share it with everyone after this webinar, it allows you to put your name, any medications you on, if you have children, who is the next person you want to pick up your children. I advise any mom, if they're collecting SNAP or cash assistance for their children, only take that card out your house when you're about to use it, leave it at home, because you may want your child to go to your next door neighbor or the godparent, and this way they'll be able to feed your child until the next step comes. If you have someone as emergency contact in your native country, please share that information with us so we can make a phone call and say, hey, they just put such and such on a plane. And we see now they don't even have, if I commit a crime, I have the right to see a judge. Immigrants don't have that right. Trump was putting people on military planes, and you had Canada and other countries showing resistance. So now we have this back and forth tariff. So you want to just treat our people inhumane, now we're going to charge your people. And I see a bigger picture as someone that likes to travel internationally. If we go to certain countries that Trump is beefing with, they're going to try to make an example of us as US citizens to show Trump, don't play with me. It's very sad, and we have to continue to stand up as women against injustices, because as a woman, we have 2 strikes against us. It's very sad. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the work that you're doing. I mean, just hearing you, I mean, we are all reading the news every day, but hearing you outline the scale of it and what's happening in this city is really interesting. I think perhaps we can go to Blanca. Just in terms of, you were also, like Popna was also involved in responding to some of the deportations from the US under the first Trump administration. And you work a lot at the intersection of, the women's program and migration. I was wondering if you could talk about the situation on the ground in Guatemala at the moment and how Popno is responding.
Bueno, escuchando a todas las compañeras que me han antecedido, creo que no es nada diferente, ¿verdad?, de lo que pasa en Guatemala. Estamos viviendo en una gran crisis, ¿verdad? Porque pues han habido muchas familias deportadas y en el departamento de Huehuetenango, que es el departamento donde tenemos cobertura, es uno de los departamentos con más personas potenciales migrantes, que también es uno de los departamentos en donde han sido retornados muchas personas, ¿verdad? Entonces, pues bueno, nuestro trabajo está enfocado con mujeres mayas, mam y poctín del departamento de Huehuetenango, como lo mencionaba, y pues la pobreza golpea de manera especial a las mujeres indígenas debido al racismo estructural y la discriminación que priva de oportunidades a los pueblos indígenas. Y no es casual, ¿verdad?, que la mayoría de las personas migrantes guatemaltecas sean indígenas y que Huehuetenango sea el departamento que más expulsa migrantes, porque pues es uno de los departamentos con más índices de pobreza extrema, violencia, y pues en su mayoría son indígenas. Y en el caso de las mujeres, es frecuente que también migren.
I think we might have lost Blanca briefly there. We might, just while we're waiting for her to reconnect, perhaps we can go to you, Lway, about the situation in Burma and the armed conflict there. And you spoke a little bit about it already in terms of, the targeting of women by the military junta and how you put, women at the forefront of the campaign for peace as well. No women, no peace. If you could speak a little bit more about, your feminist response to the crisis, and perhaps we can play the video that you wanted to play.
So, as a Women League of Burma, we have been calling to end impunity on sexual violence against women. However, the military hunter has been using women as a weapon of war. So they have murdered the woman, they kill the woman, and then they rape. When we are talking about rape, it's just not they rape in front of their family, rape in front of their husband, rape in front of their brother. So what is the meaning of that? It means that they are would like to show that we are oppressed your ethnic people, you are not a human being. So they make physically and psychologically, it make fear for the people to stay in the community. So that's why they have been using women as a weapon of war. So as a Women League of Burma, we have documented hundreds of the rape case, gang rape in the country. So from our different organizations, even my mother organization. So I belong from Shan State. So we have documented hundreds of the rape case that is raped by the military hunter. After they rape, the woman cannot do anything, but finally they kill by them. Why? What is the reason they did like that? But that's why it is committing the war crime and crime against humanity. That's why Women League of Burma has been calling to end the impunity and take the responsibility and accountability for it. So we call the international community to collaborate since Myanmar has signed is a member of the UN organization too, and then we signed CEDAW too. But there is no implementation by any government or the regime. So that's why we collaborate with we call IIMM, and we provide our documentations and more to the IIMM to help us for the accountability and responsibility of the military junta. So right now, Argentina has been released for the international warrant, but we still need your support with us. Please, you are without of your support. We as a woman who are living in the conflict zone, we cannot survive. So last night I show you how many percentage that we have been cut off for the humanitarian crisis because of the USA fund had cut off. But we hope after the Congress review, the fund will be still helping us. But if not, we would like to get your support too. We encourage you and to support us, and then to support the human rights women, especially women organization, women human rights defender. So please, I think if we look at the documentary about the women human rights defender, so it will be very clear.
If we could just speak slower, that would be really helpful.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just for the audience, the IIMM is the IIMM is the independent investigative mechanism for Myanmar, which was set up by the UN to investigate crimes in international crimes in Myanmar. And Argentina's judges recently issued an arrest warrant for Commander General Min Aung Hlaing of the military.
Yes.
Peace and Reconciliation Program အဲ့ဒါက2002ခုနှစ်မှာ WLB ကချမှတ်ပြီးတော့မှကျမတို့နိုင်ငံမှာငြိမ်းချမ်းရေးတွေပေါ်ရမယ်စစ်ပွဲတွေရပ်တန့်ရမယ်အဲ့ဒီဥစ္စာကိုကျမတို့ Women Movement ကနေတော့မှစပြီးတော့မှဒါကိုလုပ်ချမယ်ဆိုတာကိုသိခဲ့တယ်
ပြည်တွင်းစစ်နဲ့ဆက်နွယ်တဲ့လိမ်ပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာပြည်ပခါတွေဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကြကြပြန့်ပြန့်မြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာဖြစ်နေတာတွေရှိတယ်။နေ့ပေါင်း90ကိုကျမတို့ပြန်လန်ကြည့်တဲ့အခါမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အမျိုးသမီးတွေကတကယ်ကိုလုံလောက်တဲ့ဒီကိုစားပြုမှုတွေမရှိနေဘူးပေါ့နော်။ဘယ်နေရာတွေမှာလဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ဒီပြည်ပခါတွေကိုအပြေချတဲ့နေရာတွေမှာငင်းချမ်းရေးတည်ဆောက်တဲ့ဖြစ်စဉ်လုပ်ငန်းစဉ်တိုင်းမှာအမျိုးသမီးတွေကလုံလောက်တဲ့စာပြုမှုမရှိတာကိုကျမတို့တွေ့ရတယ်ပေါ့လေကျမတို့ကဒီငင်းချမ်းရေးဆွေးနွေးတဲ့နေရာပြည်ပခါတွေအပြေချတဲ့နေရာနဲ့ဒီနိုင်ငံရေးရတွေကိုဆုံးဖြတ်ချက်ချမှတ်တဲ့နေရာတွေမှာမျိုးသမီးတွေလုံလောက်ပါဝင်လာနိုင်ဖို့အတွက်ကိုကျမတို့ပုံစံမျိုးစုံနဲ့ချင်းကပ်လုပ်ဆောင်တာတွေရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒီအပြင်ကိုကျမတို့ကပြည်တွင်းစစ်နဲ့ဆက်နွယ်တဲ့လိမ်ပိုင်းဆိုင်ရာပြည်ပခါတွေပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒီဟာတွေကကျူးလွန်တဲ့သူတွေရဲ့တာဝန်ယူမှုတာဝန်ခံမှုတွေရှိလာရေးကိစ္စဒီအကြမ်းဖက်ခံရတဲ့အမျိုးသမီးတွေရဲ့တရားမျှတမှုရရှိရေးကိစ္စတွေကိုဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းကျမတို့ပုံစံမျိုးစုံနဲ့ဆောင်ရွက်တာတွေရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်သူတစ်ဖြစ်ချိုးဖောက်ခံရတဲ့အမျိုးသမီးတွေရှင်တန်ကြံရတဲ့အမျိုးသမီးတွေရဲ့ဒီသဘောဆန္ဒအလျောက်ပေါ့နော်သူတို့ရဲ့တရားမျှတမှုရရှိရေးကိုကျမတို့ဆောင်ရွက်လာတာတွေရှိပါတယ်တစ်ဖက်မှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းမျိုးသမီးတွေပါဝင်ရေးကိစ္စဒီလိုပြည်တွင်းစစ်မှာပြည်ပခါလိုအနေထားမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အမျိုးသမီးတွေကိုကာကွယ်တဲ့အစီအစဉ်တွေရှိလာရေးကိစ္စကိုကျမတို့သက်ဆိုင်ရာ stakeholder တွေနဲ့တွဲဆောင်ဆွေးနွေးတာတွေကိုလည်းကျမတို့စိုင်းမမတ်လှုပ်ဆောင်လာခဲ့တာရှိပါတယ်ပေါ့နော်
ကျမတို့မနေ့9နာရီကနေထွက်လာပြီးတော့ဒီရွာသားတွေထွက်ပြေးတိတ်ဆောင်တွေနေရာတွေတွားရောက်ပြီးတော့လီလာကြည့်ရှုရဲအဲ့မှာဒီတော်တော်များများကဒီနေရာတွေပေါ့နော်ပြေးလာတာဂိတ်ဆုံပဲပေါ့နော်သူတို့ဆက်ပြေးဖို့နေရာလည်းမရှိတော့ဘူးပေါ့နော်တချို့ဆိုရင်လည်း၄ခါ၅ခါနဲ့ပြေးရတယ်၄နေရာ၅နေရာပြေးလာတဲ့လူရှိသလိုတခြားသောအခက်အခဲစိန်ခေါ်မှုတွေလည်းအများကြီးရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်သူတို့ကလေးတွေနေမကောင်းကျန်းမာရေးနဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့ပြဿနာတွေလည်းကျမတို့တွေ့ရတယ်တချို့ဆိုမိခင်တွေအများကြီးတွေ့ရတယ်တချို့ဆိုအသက်ကြီးရွယ်အောင်တွေတချို့ဆိုခြေကျိုးလက်ကျိုးတဲ့တက်ကြီးရွယ်ဦးတွေလည်းအများကြီးတွေ့ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်သူရဲ့စိတ်တော့ကတွေပူပင်မှုတွေကအမြင်ရှိနေတာကိုကျမတို့တွေ့ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်တချို့ကျတော့အိမ်ပြန်ချင်တယ်တချို့ကျတော့စစ်မဖြစ်ချင်တော့ဘူးတချို့ကျတော့ဒီကိုရွာမှာကိုငင်းချစ်ပြန်နေချင်တယ်ဆိုတဲ့အတန်လေးတွေကျမတို့ကြားရတယ်ကလေးတွေဆိုလည်းကျောင်းတွေတက်ချင်တယ်ဆိုပြီးတော့ပြောရတယ်အများကြီးကြားရတယ်နော်
ကျမနေတဲ့နေရာမှာကဖြစ်နေတဲ့ဒေသလက်ရှိတဲ့ခါကျတော့ကျမတို့ဒီဖက်ဖြစ်ဆောင်ရတဲ့အချိန်မှာကလေးကိုလည်းပေါ်ပါနေရတဲ့အနေအထားမျိုးမှာကတော့ဒီကလေးကလည်းသုံးနှစ်ကျော်အရွယ်ပဲရှိသေးတဲ့ခါကျတော့အခက်အခဲတွေရှိလာတဲ့အနေအထားမျိုးတွေရှိတယ်။ကျမရဲ့လုပ်ငန်းဆက်မှာပေါ်၎င်းပြီးတော့မှဒီကလေးရဲ့ဝေစားတဲ့မှာ၎င်းကျမဒီစီမံခန့်ခွဲနေရတဲ့အနေအထားတွေရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်
။ကျမတို့ကလုံခြုံရေးရရန်ကိုစိုးရင်ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်။ကျမတို့လုပ်နေတဲ့အလုပ်ကိုလည်းကျမတို့လှုပ်လို့မရတဲ့ခါကျတော့ဘယ်လိုမျိုးလုပ်ရလဲဆိုရင်ကျမတို့ကဒီနေရာတွေကိုပြောင်းရတယ်ပေါ့နော်နေရာပြောင်းတဲ့ခါမှာကလေးကလည်းငယ်တယ်ဆိုတော့ကလေးကိုလည်းခေါ်သွားရတယ်အဲ့မှာရှောင်းတိန်နေတဲ့အချိန်မှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့ကလေးထင်းကိုခေါ်သွားရအောင်လေဟိုအချိန်လေးရမြန်သွားရတဲ့ခါကျတော့ကလေးကိုပဲခေါ်သွားလိုက်ရတယ်ရှောင်းတိန်တယ်ဆိုပေမဲ့လည်းလုပ်ငန်းကတော့ဆက်လုပ်ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့ online ကနေကျမတို့ကလုပ်ရတယ်လုပ်ရတဲ့ခါကျတော့ကလေးထင်းမဲ့လူလည်းမရှိဘူးခက်ခဲတယ်ပေါ့နော်ပြီးရင်အဲ့ဒီကိုရောက်တဲ့နေရာက online လည်းမရ online မရတဲ့အခါကျတော့ကိုယ် line ရတဲ့နေရာမှာပြန်သွားပြီးမှ line ကိုပြန်ရှာရတယ်တောတောင်တဲ့ကနေလည်းကျမတို့ကအစည်းအဝေးတွေပဲပြောရမှာတခြားလုပ်ငန်းတွေလည်းကျမတို့က step ပြမှာလုပ်နေရတဲ့အနေအထားတွေရှိရပေါ့နော်
ကိုခရီးထွက်ရမယ်လူထုတွေကိုသွားကူညီရရမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကလေးကိုတခြားတငယ်ချင်းနဲ့ထားခဲ့ပြီးတော့ကိုတိုင်းနဲ့သွားဒီလောက်ခက်ခဲတဲ့ကြားတွေကဒီလောက်အကြက်အတဲဘယ်သူမှအာဏာရှင်တွေအာဏာပိုင်တွေခွင့်မပေးတဲ့ကြားတွေကခက်ခဲပဲလူထုတွေကိုတတောင်တက်တတောင်ဆင်းကျမတို့သွားကူညီထောက်ပံ့တာဒီလည်းရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်
မိခင်တယောက်ဆိုတော့တော်တော်လေးတော့စိတ်ခုံမှုတွေဖြစ်တယ်အခက်ခဲတွေဖြစ်တယ်နော်မနေ့ပိုင်းဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တပိတ်က7နာရီလောက်ကိုကျမတို့ပုံမှန်အားဖြင့်စတယ်ပေါ့နော်ကလေးအတွက်ကိုနှုတ်ညှစ်ပြီးတော့ကျမဘူးထဲမှာထည့်ထားခဲ့တယ်ပြီးလို့ရှိရင်ကျမဒီကလေးကိုမိဘတွေစီမှာအပ်ပြီးတော့ကျမတပိတ်မှာပါဝင်တယ်တစ်ခါတလေဆိုကျမတို့နောက်ကိုလိုက်ခံရတာရှိတယ်အဲ့လိုမျိုးလိုက်ခံရတဲ့အခါဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကိုကစိတ်ကလည်းကလေးစီမှာရောက်နေတယ်ပေါ့နော်ကလေးဒီချိန်ဆိုတော့နှုတ်စာတော့မှာပဲဆိုတော့စိတ်ကတစ်ဖက်ဒါပေမဲ့ကိုယ့်ရဲ့လုံခြုံရေးအရာပေါ့နော်ကလေးရှိတဲ့နေရာကိုတမ်းမပြန်နိုင်မဲနဲ့တခြားနေရာကိုကျမတို့တိတ်ရှောင်ရတဲ့ဟာမျိုးတွေလည်းအများကြီးကြုံခဲ့ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်ကျမတို့ဒီညအိတ်တဲ့နေရာမျိုးတွေမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တနက်တန်တွေအဲ့လိုမျိုးတွေကြားနေရညတိုင်းဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တနက်ပြစ်တဲ့ဟာတွေဒီဘုံပေါက်တဲ့အတန်တွေကအများရန်လို့ကြားနေရတဲ့ခါမျိုးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီတစ်နှစ်ကျော်အရွယ်ကလေးလေးကိုကျမကစသားတွေလာတော့မဲ့ဘာညာနဲ့ဆိုသူလည်းအရန်ကိုကြောက်ပြီးတော့ကျမဒီချွေးစည်းတွေပြန်ပြီးမှမအိတ်ချင်လဲအိတ်ပျော်သွားအောင်လုပ်ရတဲ့အခါမျိုးတွေလည်းအများကြီးရှိတယ်ပေါ့နော်တခါလေးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျမတို့ရှိတဲ့နေရာကိုစစ်ကောင်စစ်တပ်တွေရောက်လာတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျမတို့မှာဒီထွက်ပြေးတိတ်ရှောင်ရတဲ့အခါကလေးအတန်မထွက်အောင်ဒီတောထဲတွေမှာဝင်ပြီးတော့ကျမပုံရတဲ့ဟာမျိုးတွေလည်းအများကြီးကြုံခဲ့ရတယ်
ကလေးကတယောက်တည်းမဟုတ်တဲ့ခါကျတော့ကျမတို့က
ကလေးငယ်တယောက်ကိုပဲခေါ်သွားရတယ်ကလေးကြီးမကိုကျတော့ထားခဲ့ရတဲ့ခါကျတော့ဟိုမှာလဲစိတ်ထင်းထင်းဖြစ်ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်တစ်ချိန်ထဲမှာလဲဒီမှာလဲကလေးငယ်ကိုပြန်ခေါ်ရတဲ့ခါကျတော့အလုပ်ထဲမှာနည်းနည်းတော့ဟို stress တွေကပိုပြီးမှဖြစ်စေတယ်ပေါ့နော်စိုးရိမ်တဲ့ကြားကနေမှအလုပ်လုပ်နေရတယ်ပေါ့နော်အခုဆိုရင်ကျမတို့ကဟိုတယောက်တနေစီရာစီပြန်ဖြစ်ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်ကလေးကြီးကိုကျတော့ဟိုသူ့ဖေနဲ့နေခိုင်းပြီးမှကျမတို့ကလေးငယ်နဲ့ကကျတော့ဟိုအလုပ်ဆက်လုပ်လို့ရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့တခြားနေရာခေါ်သွားရတဲ့ဟာတွေရှိရပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့အရင်ခက်ခဲတယ်အရင်တော့ဆိုရင်မိသားစုစုံစုံနေနဲ့ရှိရတယ်အလုပ်ပုံမှန်လုပ်ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်ကိုလုပ်ချင်တဲ့ဟာတွေလုပ်ရတယ်စိတ်အေးလည်းအေးနဲ့အခုကျတော့အဲ့လိုမျိုးမဟုတ်ဘူးမိသားစုတကွဲတပြားစီနေရတယ်ပေါ့နော်
မိခင်တယောက်အနေနဲ့ဆိုရင်တော့ဒါပုံမှန်အနေထားမှာတော့တခါကျရင်ဆိုင်နိုင်တဲ့အနေထားမရှိဘူးဒါပေမဲ့အခုကာလဆိုပို့ပြီးတော့တအားခက်ခဲတယ်အနည်းငယ်စိတ်ဖိစီးမှုလည်းဖြစ်တယ်ပေါ့နော်ဒါပေမဲ့ဒီဟာတွေကိုကျမတို့ကြော်ဝါနိုင်ခဲ့တဲ့အရာတော့အဖွဲ့အစည်းအနေနဲ့ပတ်ပိုးမှုရဲ့အဓိကအိမ်ထောင်ဖက်ရဲ့အမျိုးသားရဲ့ပတ်ပိုးမှုကြောင့်ပေါ့နော်
ပတိပါလပေါ်မအားကပါခုဝဲတာလေတတော့ခရမဲပူဒါလေတတော့ခရမဲနေတမေဝဲတာထဲလေအဝဲပတ်တော့အပတော်ပါတတော့ခရမဲဝဲတာလက်ချိရုကောတဲ့ပတော်နေအိုအားထောဝဲတာဟောကဘောမဆက်ဖို့ကရစီတဖာနေကဒုကနာဝဲတာတော့ကဆော့ထွဲဝဲတာဒီ WLB လက်တာဖြစ်တာမှာလက်တာခုတာခဲဒီတာဒူအိုထောဝဲတာတာရတာကလေးတဲ့ဖာလပမအကောမေတာဒူအိုထောတာမလို့မတော့တဲ့ဖာမေပဲတော့တာဒူအိုထောဝဲတာတာဆော့တလဲတာလက်ချိကောဘေအကောလက်တာခဲလို့လက်ကလေးအဘောကနေအဝဲစေကဆော့ထွဲကနေမေတလဲရဲ့တော့ပါဖလာတယ်လက်တင်ညာအင်းနော်
နော်ဒီလိုပဏိပခတွေစစ်ပဏိပခတွေပြင်းထန်နေတဲ့နေရာတွေမှာအမျိုးသမီးငယ်တွေမိန်းကလေးတွေကဒီလိမ်မိုင်းဆိုင်ရာအကြမ်းဖက်မှုတွေနော်ဘက်ပေါင်းစုံကနေလူခွင့်ရေးချိုးဖောက်မှုတွေကိုခံစားနေရတယ်ဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒီအနေအထားတွေကနေပြီးတော့အကာအကွယ်ပေးဖို့လိုတယ်ဆိုတော့ဒီအချိန်မှာကျမတို့ကဒီအမျိုးသမီးတွေမိန်းကလေးငယ်တွေကိုသူတို့ရဲ့လုံခြုံရေးအတွက်ဒီစစ်ပဏိပခတွေကြားထဲမှာတစားခံမဖြစ်ဖို့အတွက်ပညာပေးတာတွေအသိပညာပေးတာတွေလက်နက်ကင်ဖွဲ့စည်းတွေရဲ့ဒီစီမင်းစည်းကမ်းတွေအားကောင်းအောင်လို့တိုက်တွန်းတာတွေလှုပ်ဆောင်ဖို့လိုအပ်တယ်ဒါနိုင်ငံတကာကနေပြီးတော့စစ်ပွဲပဏိပခပြင်းထန်နေတဲ့နိုင်ငံတွေမှာဒီ Women Peace and Security နဲ့ပတ်သက်တဲ့လုပ်ငန်းစဉ်အတွက်ဒီများစွာကူညီထောက်ပံ့ပေးဖို့ပေါ့နော်အင်မတန်အရေးကြီးပါတယ်လို့ပြောချင်ပါတယ်
No better method than film to sometimes bring home the realities of the situation on the ground. I think, you know, you mentioned international solidarity, and I think that's where I want to turn the conversation now. How have you found, you know, this week is the Commission on the Status of Women. There are feminists from all over the globe present in New York City. How have you found gatherings like this useful, if at all? And maybe we can start with Alicia.
For me, it's really important to be at CSW as much as possible. And you know, depending on the thematic areas as well. One of the reasons is solidarity and just seeing women working on so many different issues and looking at the intersections of those issues and getting a better understanding of what is happening in other countries and in other regions. It's really been interesting for me to also learn from some of the tactics and methods that are being implemented in other places and looking at ways to replicate, to adapt, to scale. And it has really also been a space for, I guess, cultivating hope. It's very difficult to have hope when you're just in the work and trying to do it and you feel like you're coming up against so many roadblocks, so many barriers, so many people who not only don't want you to succeed in your advocacy, but are prepared to cause you harm. So being in a space like this where other people are facing similar challenges and overcoming them can help to cultivate and to nurture hope, which feels very, very far away a lot of times. And it's also, for me, kind of a space for respite where I don't have to have the same arguments that I have at home because I'm in rooms where people already kind of know. And I think it's something that's discounted. Many people will come to spaces like CSW and say, well, we're just preaching to the choir. But there's something to be said about filling ourselves and filling each other's cups and saying, yes, what you're saying does suck. That is horrible. It is wrong that that happened to you. Yes, this work is difficult. And yes, we can still win. Winning is inevitable. We are going to be able to do this together.
It's really powerful. Blanca, perhaps we can ask you as well. How have you found international gatherings helpful or international solidarity helpful in your work?
Sí, yo creo que a través de estos espacios podemos intercambiar experiencias e identificar desafíos comunes, ¿verdad? Y generar estrategias conjuntas para mejorar la atención y la protección de las personas migrantes y especialmente las mujeres indígenas, quienes, pues, el enfoque del programa de mujeres de PUCNO, pues es eso, ¿verdad? Y pues que también esto nos permite pues hacer alianzas, ¿verdad? Con otras entidades, organizaciones que tenemos como el mismo fin y pues que también esto nos permite conocer también las realidades, a pesar de que las conocemos, ¿verdad? Las realidades de las mujeres y las invito a que puedan visitar nuestra página. Estamos como asociacionpopno.org, donde colgamos un documento sobre un diagnóstico de mujeres mayasmam y popí en movilidad humana. Está en español e inglés para que lo puedan ver, ¿verdad? Donde recogemos información importante de las mujeres, de las vivencias, de las experiencias de las mujeres que migran y que también de las mujeres que se quedan, ¿verdad? Porque muchas de las veces nos enfocamos solo en las y los que migran, sino también qué pasa con las mujeres que quedan, por ejemplo, las niñas, los niños, adolescentes, cómo es la vida de ellos cuando quedan, que no es nada fácil, porque pues si se quedan es porque se quedan con la abuela, con algún familiar cercano, con la hermana o el hermano mayor que lo hemos identificado porque también acompañamos a niñas y niños y adolescentes que han retornado de México y Estados Unidos y les brindamos una atención psicosocial, les apoyamos para la reintegración en su comunidad, en su familia, en todo su entorno. Entonces, esto nos permite generar esas acciones comunes y que también pues ver resultados es bastante satisfactorio para las comunidades.
Turning to something that I think I heard from Janay and Alicia, like in your introduction. So you talked about turning pain into power, and Alicia, you talked about the seed of Equality Bahamas being raged. I think in times of crisis, there can be opportunities for radical change, and that's both for bad, as well as for good. I just want to, if you could just explore a little bit more about that, Janay, about like how we can use times of crisis to maybe reimagine a better world.
I would say continue on using our voices. Like being in this room, I feel at peace because I feel everyone shares some of the same values that I do. It's not like in certain rooms where I go to Albany a lot to speak to elected officials, and I feel like I have to convince them why this mother shouldn't be taken away from her child. But here, I feel that you understand that family separation is wrong. They should have a pathway to citizenship. They should, if someone is escaping poverty, abuse, how are you going to ask them $1,000 to fill out an application? And then they have this test. I'm a born American citizen, but I probably wouldn't even pass that test to become an American citizen, those questions they ask you. And then they don't even have it where people can do those things in different languages that they're comfortable for. Learning English is not easy. It's easy for us because that's a language we grew up speaking. That's just like if someone was to tell me, hey, learn French. I was married to a Haitian for almost 10 years. I only learned a few words in French and it wasn't the good words. So it's very hard for people. So just continue on networking because the younger people are going through changes also. I'm a mom of a 26, 21, and 18, and all three of them are different. You have young people now that at a young age decide, even though I was born a girl, I feel like a boy. That's their right. And we should be able to embrace those things. During my time, it was shamed on when I was being raised in the 80s, but now in 2025, if I name you Lisa and you want me to call you Leroy, Leroy it is. And women, we go through so many different changes with Trump in office. FAFSA, education, he's coming after that. This is my daughter's senior year in high school, and I did the FAFSA, which is a financial aid application 3 months ago, and it's still empty. So she's like, I guess I won't be going to college. I said, I'm your mother. You're going to be going to college by any means necessary. He put in all of these barriers up. I went to an immigration hearing not too long ago when they said New York City hit the migrant crisis. It was a 20-year-old girl with her 2-year-old daughter. They couldn't speak a lick of English. And the judge had the nerve to ask the 2-year-old, what's your name and where your lawyer? I said, what? So they gave me some paperwork and told me to contact a lawyer. So now this child who didn't ask to come here is at risk for deportation. But I'm happy that I was able to be there for that family because they could have just took them and just shift them away. A lot of women are very fearful. In the homeless services system, there's a lot of mothers in these shelters, and some of these shelters, I wouldn't even put an animal in it. I had to reach out to Homeless Coalition, one of our families here. She's a mom of 4. Her US citizen husband abandoned her with the 4 children. Her shelter was roach and mice infested. And she kept saying, Janay, I don't want them to deport me. I said, I dare them. So Homeless Coalition was able to get her in a safe, healthy space because being homeless is already traumatic. And then your kids, how can they focus in school knowing mice and roaches is crawling over them when they're asleep? It's very sad. And we also trying to push to get a law where New York City agencies don't share information with ICE. We had a mother who's from Mexico lose her daughter because a caseworker didn't want to call a translator to help her do her, they call it a daily, bi-weekly meeting. It's called ILP, which stands for Individual Life Plan. And even here, you see interpretation lines all over the office. Those things are a given. So she called ACS to tell ACS this mother's not taking care of her child. We had to help her get her child back out of ACS system. And then she threatened to call immigration on the mother. We should have it where if people treat people wrong, it should be, a penalty for that. People should feel comfortable going places where they're seeking help at. So we just have to continue on using our voice for the people that don't have, or feel that they don't have a voice because their voice won't be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so powerful. I think you raised something that is really important. You mentioned you were working 7 days.
Yeah.
Sorry, sure. You mentioned you were working 7-day weeks, and we're all dealing with really confronting situations and suffering. What do you do to kind of preserve your mental health and care for yourself?
I treat myself to a spa, like to get a massage and acupuncture, that helps. Mm-hmm. And I'll just go into my little Netflix era. So I'll just watch TV, pop some popcorn and turn the phone off for a few hours and just focus on me. Preserving your mental health is very important because the most important person is yourself. It's like going on a plane. They tell you, seatbelt first. I can't save someone if I can't save myself. So we have to make sure as women, we protect our mental health. Most of us, well, I'm not gonna say most because I don't want to be biased. Women, our body go through a lot of changes. And sometimes during certain times of the month, it makes us very weak. So we have to deal with things that some men don't have to deal. Men don't have to deal with that. Oh, I'm not saying men don't have stress, but women, we go through certain things and we have to make sure we take extra care of ourselves.
So, what about you? You said something about the kind of floor of thinking about resilience. I don't know if that interacts with the self-care conversation at all, but like, what do you do to kind of preserve your ability to keep fighting in this movement?
Yeah, I have not done a great job at this, y'all. To be real, it's just work, 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 and it just feels so good to be able to do something, to put the rage somewhere. In the last couple of weeks, I faced a bit of a crisis. It was very difficult to keep going. And I think the thing that kept me going and that actually kept me here was being in a space where people saw me and let me know consistently that they saw me, whether or not I asked them to. You know, people just came up to me and said, you know, that was a mess. What happened? Like, that is wrong. I'm so mad for you. You know, unprompted, just saying like, I just want you to know I'm so mad and I'm ready to do whatever you want me to do. It's really been so helpful because I felt very alone in it, and as though, you know, there's no real solution to the issue. You know, what's going to happen is going to happen, and, you know, there will be all kinds of suffering because of it. But people saying, I'm here for you. I am just as angry as you are, maybe even more angry than you are, because I see what you're doing. And we're going to come out on the other side and things are going to be okay, has been really, really helpful. And I've tried to keep up with therapy, because doing this kind of work, I hear a lot of people's stories, and this isn't something that you clock out, you know. And I've been having this conversation with my therapist as well, where she's saying, you know, you have a lot of value for your work and what you do, but how are you valuing yourself? And I'm like, lady, let me tell you something. I don't just get to leave work at work. You know, I'm not swiping cans of tuna and then balancing my cash register, and then I get to go home and not think about the grocery store. You know, all of it comes home with me, and I don't really know how to separate those things out. And a part of it is going to therapy. A part of it is having friends who see what I'm doing and tell me they see it. But it's not something that I can really share with other people because it's confidential. It's things that people are going through that they don't want to tell anyone else, that they felt very conflicted about even sharing with me. So, you know, I think we also have to think beyond self-care and the things that are really easy if you have the money. I have a friend who's constantly saying that one of our biggest problems is that we try to solve our problems with money. You know, you pay for the bath bomb, you pay for the massage, and these are great things. But what happens when this is a systemic issue, this exhaustion, this rage that actually starts to take a toll on our bodies in real ways? What happens when the people who are experiencing that can't pay for a solution? We have to get at the root. And I think probably one of the biggest barriers to me taking care of myself is trying to address those root issues. And it's the reason that I think we need to shift from self-care to community care and back to resilience and thinking about how we help each other along. And this goes to the way that we do our work, the way that we collaborate, the way that we work with the people that we serve, but also the way that we engage with funders and funders engage with us. You don't see a whole lot of grants out there for advocates to take care of themselves, right? So how do we push back against some of these systems and make demands that we are seen as human beings that have specific needs, just like everyone else, but maybe even some additional needs because we're carrying so much of a burden to help other people along to make it lighter.
I love that. Okay, so then shifting my question slightly for Lway. So what gives you strength to continue on in this movement, given the given the gravity of what you're dealing with in Burma?
So we had the slogan that women are agent of change. So when I got stressed, every time, so we are just talking with friends, and especially I really use my time with my little one. She's only 1 year old, so whatever I got stressed, and I just play with her. So it relieves. And then you have to be resilient, even in your family too, right? So when we are talking about peace, you have to have peace in your family first. If you didn't have peace in your family, you cannot bring peace even in your community or with your environment where you are living. So that's why for myself, I take the motivations from my family first. And then we as a woman group, so we are talking to each other, and then you encourage who you are, where you are, what are you doing, how is your activity that are helping the world or helping your community, helping our family too. So this is the way that I really use in my life.
It's amazing. And congratulations on your little one. Blanca, if I can ask you as well, what gives you strength to continue on in the movement?
Bueno, una eh, de las frases que también tenemos es para acompañar a otras mujeres debo estar bien. Y eso es un reto también porque, digamos, como parte de estar bien, pues es no hacer nada, ¿verdad? De estar tirada en la cama, por ejemplo, pero hay una pelea entre tu cuerpo y tu mente porque pues estás acostada, por ejemplo, pero bueno, en mi caso, pero ya estoy pensando en el trabajo, ¿verdad? O estoy almorzando, pero estamos hablando de trabajo. Entonces, eso también nos reta a que podamos, pues, pensar y repensarnos, ¿verdad? Del cuidado que es muy importante y pues te debemos tener espacios de reflexión, redes de apoyo, la promoción de un equilibrio entre la vida y de lo laboral y lo personal, que eso es muy importante, y que bueno, las crisis también son difíciles, ¿verdad? Y que pueden y deben ser oportunidades para generar cambios, y una de las primeras cosas que hemos hecho, pues es la de seguir sensibilizando sobre los impactos diferenciados de la movilidad humana, y pues que también desde el programa buscamos y abordamos con los hombres el tema de las masculinidades para que no sean pues violentos, ¿verdad? Y pues bueno, lo que me motiva pues es ver, ¿verdad? A otras mujeres que están bien como yo estoy bien. Creo que eso es muy importante y que debemos aportar y apoyar desde lo que tenemos, porque otra de las cosas es que no somos las que solucionan los problemas. Ya lo decían ahí, que las mujeres pues son entes de sus propios cambios y es cierto, ¿verdad? Sí, son las protagonistas y nosotras pues acompañamos en lo que podamos, y eso también se vuelve bastante interesante para que podamos luchar, ¿verdad? Para que todas las mujeres, las adolescentes, las jóvenes puedan vivir sin miedo y con acceso pleno a sus derechos, con oportunidades para desarrollarse en los ámbitos de la vida y que tengan pues una vida libre de violencia.
Thank you so much. We're reaching almost time now, and I want to leave some time for questions from the audience, but I will say just to thank you so much for joining us. And what gives me strength is meeting amazing feminists like you all and hearing from you.
Don't be shy.
I was just thinking, I was wondering, Alicia, if you could speak to the gender impacts. Can you pass the microphones?
Oh, sure.
This is a question for Alicia Wallace. I was just wondering if you could speak to the gender impacts of the citizenship law in Bahamas and how that impacted the Haiti distribution. I think I to share that here.
Yeah, sure. So in the Bahamas, our nationality is conferred based on the Constitution, which says that women pass on citizenship to their children when the children are born out of wedlock, because the children are considered fatherless. So this means that if a Bahamian man has a child with a woman who's not Bahamian and they're not married, that child does not have access to Bahamian citizenship. But if a Bahamian woman marries, let's say, an American man and gives birth outside of the Bahamas, her child is not a Bahamian. And her husband cannot access Bahamian citizenship. But a married man passes on citizenship to his children, no matter the nationality of his spouse or where the child is born. And a Bahamian man's spouse has access to the application process for citizenship. This causes so many different problems. There's a woman I know who is Bahamian. She married an Italian, and they were living in Thailand, and that's where she had her baby. She, of course, married this man and is giving birth outside of the Bahamas, so the baby cannot be Bahamian. Thailand does not give birthright citizenship. Fortunately, Italy allows men to pass on citizenship to their children born outside of the country. So that's the difference between this child being stateless and the child being Italian. So this results in people being stateless, having lots of difficulty with travel, which means difficulty with accessing medical care, for example. So there are people in the Bahamas who need to go to the US or to other countries to, there was one story a couple of years ago with somebody who needed brain surgery for survival to save her life, and she could not go because she could not get travel documents. She had no citizenship. It's also an issue with brain drain. So we're losing a lot of people because a lot of women are choosing just not to come back, even though they want to. So it's an interesting concept to think about home, what it means to have a home. I spoke at an event 2 days ago that was at a place called Sacred Space. It used to be a slave plantation. And there are these sculptures that they made out of casuarina trees. They're invasive, and so they chopped the trees. But an artist sculpted them to look like women, and it's right on the ocean, and they're looking in all different directions. And the story is that they're looking in all these different directions because they know that they're not home. They know that they came across the ocean, but they don't know which direction they came from. And I thought, how is this different from women today who might have their citizenship in the Bahamas, but don't feel that belonging, don't feel that safety, don't feel that security? And what happens when there's a crisis like a Hurricane Dorian, where you're displaced and the thing that's between you and getting access to the things that you need to survive and for your family's survival is citizenship and is a legal status in that country. So you can see how nationality becomes a huge issue just across the board with everything, accessing education, being able to leave the country for any particular reason, being able to access your basic human rights. It's all affected by your ability to have citizenship conferred on you, but also to be able to confer citizenship. We even saw in the pandemic, Malaysia has a very similar law to the Bahamas. And there was a woman sharing her story about how she worked for a company in Malaysia. They placed her in the US for work. She got word that her father was dying, and she could not go back to Malaysia to be with her father because her child did not have Malaysian citizenship. And Malaysia was only letting in citizens into the country during those first months of the pandemic. So it's a very complex issue that can be very uncomplicated to resolve.
So we have a question from the Zoom. So building on the notion of turning pain into power, how would you say we can best utilize our anger or rage in these times?
I'll take it. I would say continue to donate to the feminist organizations because we need money to keep going. I would say reach out to your elected officials and state that whatever's going on, you don't agree with it. Because hearing it from their constituents, they get it. But just hearing it from the feminists, they may not get it. So continue on speaking out against it. Don't be silent. And donate that money.
Yeah. I just would like to add that question. Like, sure, I support that. Without supporting the feminist organization, we will not have peace on the world too. Because feminist organizations are working for justice. So if you are really value for justice, please support us.
Yeah, I also want to add to that, that this is a time for planning and movement building. I think there's so many people who are in the anti-rights camp, and it can feel like you're just going up against a wall, right? And some of us are going to do that. Some of us are going to take our rage and be really loud about it and contact our representatives. But some of us have to be channeling the rage within our communities and helping people to join our movements, because there are a lot of ways that they feel inaccessible. So we can use this time for training, for education, for mobilization, so that when the tides turn, because we know that they do, we have a group that's ready to not just push for the changes that we need, but to start writing those policies, to look at what the laws need to look like, to engage with younger people as well, so that they can continue this movement and we don't have a gap between generations. And it's also a time for rest. right? Some of us at this point need to retreat and we need to refuel, and it's okay. Some of us are going to keep going and some of us need to rest.
Right.
Yeah, she's looking in the mirror. She's looking in the mirror.
I don't want to talk about that right now.
Someone has a question.
Yes.
All of you, but I know you both, in your stories, you shared about Haitian immigrants in various ways, and I'm curious if you could just speak to the relevance of intersectionality, whether it's in the space in the Bahamas with national origin discrimination, or in terms of Black immigrants and anti-Black racism here. If you could speak to how that connects with your fight and with in terms of promoting feminism, like what.
I would speak about Trump doing his speech in Miami, where there were a lot of Haitian migrants. And he convinced some Haitian citizens to vote for him. And as soon as he got into that office, what did he do to the Haitians? He took back the TPS and he wanted to deport Haitians, and he's going to deport Haitians. And he also has Haiti on the ban list. So he brainwashes people to get what he wants. And once he get what he wants, you see what he is doing. So I encourage people not to allow a person that's telling you, he warned us about the things that he was gonna do. And when he got there, he did it. Now they're calling the office, oh my God, they just took my daughter from her check-in. A check-in is where they have to report to 26 Federal Plaza if they're in New York City or whatever state they're in. So at Families of Freedom, we have an accompaniment program. So if someone has to go to a check-in, we go with them if they reach out to us. And I would advise anyone who has to go to a check-in, don't go alone. Because once you go, you may check in and not check out. Or your checkout may be in your native country. And I also want to encourage people, if you're an iPhone user or even an Android, those air tags are very important in these times. You can have them on your key ring, because once someone is detained, they can go from New York to Louisiana in a day. But if they put an air tag in their shoe, we can track where those shoes go. So we can at least have an idea where they're at. Because when they detain Jean, who's a migrant from Haiti, if it wasn't for them they surveilled him. He was working at a hospital in Long Island where his job was transportation. So he would pick up the nurses and the doctors, say during the morning, he would come home for 4 hours. And when it was time for them to get off, he would pick them up again and take them back to the Long Island Railroad. He texted me, saying, ICE got me. If he didn't have that cell phone, we would not have known what Jean was, because I notified his legal team and his lawyer reached out to his deportation officer, and his deportation officer said, I don't know what you're talking about. And that was able to save another activist called Robbie Rockbear, who they tried to detain the same day, but he took sanctuary in the church. And those sanctuary laws, the deportation officer, they was outside of Judson Memorial Church waiting for Robbie to come out. But by Robbie realizing that they had Jean, he didn't come out of church. They wound up detaining him at his check-in when he went the following week. So we just have to encourage people to use the resources we got and not feel that they have to suffer in silence. Share it with someone. You have to put your faith and trust in someone, because once you get in detention, it's horrible. They don't even grant you a phone call. Your phone call may be when you're in your native country.
Okay. Borders and nationality by extension are used to divide us, right? And you divide and conquer is still very strong. It's still a very strong tactic. And I think the Haitian people have been placed at the bottom. There's so much that has happened to Haiti that is unjust. And we in the Caribbean owe a huge debt to Haiti for our freedom. But the country is still looked down upon. The people are looked down upon as suffering, and not recognizing and not acknowledging the historical context there, and that it had to pay this huge debt to France, right? France owes Haiti so much money. and so much more than money. But it's the reason for the instability today, and that Haitian people are having to spread themselves out and try to find economic opportunities, but they're being demonized for that. And we're not looking at it that way because we've been taught this whole division and conquering way of being. And I think we have learned that as long as we're not on the bottom, it's okay. And as long as there's somebody that we can put our foot on, we're better off. And we're not recognizing the shared challenges that we're facing. And we're seeing the same thing with Palestine, right? Like our struggles are interconnected. And until we really recognize that and work as though we know that, we're going to continue to be pulling each other down and no one's going to be able to rise above.